Ever wondered what the real difference is between a witch and a sorcerer? We see them all the time in movies and books, slinging spells and brewing potions. But historically, these two figures are worlds apart. It's not just about a pointy hat versus a glowing staff. The real story is way more fascinating and complex than you might think. Let's start with witches. For centuries, the image of the witch has been deeply tied to nature, community, and often persecution. Historically, the people accused of witchcraft were frequently women living on the fringes of society. They were healers, midwives, and herbalists, people who held ancient knowledge of the natural world. This connection to nature is key. Think of it less as hocus pocus and more as a deep understanding of folk medicine and tradition. They might have used herbs to heal a sick neighbor or offered charms for a good harvest. Their practices were often rooted in pagan or pre-Christian beliefs, which put them at odds with the growing power of the organized church. Sadly, this made them easy targets. The witch hunts that swept through Europe and America weren't about fighting magical evil. They were fueled by fear, social control, and misogyny. The stereotype of the evil, cauldron-stirring crone was a tool of propaganda designed to demonize those who didn't fit into society's rigid boxers. So, a historical witch's power was often seen as inherent, natural, and communal. Now, let's flip the coin and talk about sorcerers. The term sorcerer often paints a very different picture. Think less village healer and more solitary scholar. The word itself has roots in the Latin sors, meaning fate or lot, suggesting someone who could interpret or even manipulate destiny. Historically, sorcerers were associated with high magic or ceremonial magic. This wasn't about intuition or nature. It was about knowledge, study, and intellect. A sorcerer's power was believed to come from learning. They were the ones poring over ancient texts, learning complex rituals, and deciphering arcane symbols. Their goal was to command supernatural forces, often by summoning spirits, demons, or angels. This required immense discipline and education, which meant that sorcery was often linked to the educated elite, alchemists, and even members of the clergy who dabbled in forbidden arts. Unlike the community-based practices of witches, a sorcerer's work was typically solitary and secretive. Their magic was a science, a system with rules that could be mastered through intense study and practice. While witches drew power from the earth, sorcerers sought to bend the cosmos to their will through sheer force of intellect and ritual. It was a path of ambition and a quest for ultimate knowledge and control. So, to break it all down, witches were historically linked to natural, intuitive, and communitivist folk magic, and were often persecuted for it. Sorcerers, on the other hand, were associated with scholarly, ceremonial high magic, seeking power through knowledge and ritual, often in solitude. One represents an inherent connection to the world, the other, a learned mastery over it. Of course, modern fiction loves to blend these lines, creating characters that are a bit of both. But understanding their distinct historical roots gives us a much richer appreciation for these iconic, magical figures. Next time you see a witch or a sorcerer on screen, you'll know the deep, fascinating history that separates them. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey into the past, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.